A very good evening to you and welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on a Monday night. I'm back. I don't know when the last time I did a West Ham Weekly, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever. Anyway, our new season starts today, doesn't it? Because our first pre-season friendly kicked off earlier today and it was a relatively easy and convincing win. I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a moment and talk about the fixture changes that are coming up. And of course, everything that you want to hear about in terms of who are we selling, who are we buying, has Declan Rice gone yet, and all that sort of stuff. So all the sort of latest updates. But I'm going to be honest with you, there's not an awful lot of latest updates, to be really truthful. There's stuff happening. There's stuff happening behind the scenes, even though I know a lot of people are getting quite restless. They feel that there's not a lot going on, but there is, and it's all happening. And I dare say that we will kind of get to know about some of the changes that are happening over the coming weeks. But let's start off with the first thing, which was the first pre-season of the 23-24 season. And we played Boreham Wood. And surprise, surprise, David Moyes started with two up front. Yep. He started with our new number 11, Gianluca Scamacca, alongside Danny Ings up front. Gave a couple of young players a few starts. Lang, who played at right back, and he did pretty well. He actually laid on the first goal that we scored after 25 minutes for Danny Ings. Connor Coventry was back after his loan last season in the Championship. Kamari Swire, a very decent prospect, was also given a run out. And the first half, like I said, Flynn Downs actually had a pretty decent game at the start in central midfield. But we took our first goal after some good work from Lang down the right-hand side, created for Danny Ings. So after 25 minutes, we won up front. And then just before half-time, Kamari Swire got in on the act and got our second just before half-time. A number of changes. Scamacca came off, Fabianski, Zuma, Creswell, Swire, and Ings all were rested. And in came Joseph Anang, our third-choice keeper. Freddie Potts came in, Emerson on the left side, Jared Bowen, another fantastic young prospect, George Earthy, and Oggy came on as captain. Now, unfortunately, Oggy didn't last very long. He only lasted something like 17 minutes before he went off again and gave the captain's armband to Jared Bowen. Now, I don't know whether Oggy got an injury or not. I haven't heard any news, and maybe there's someone in the chat that might be able to update me, but it's a concern. First game, first pre-season game, and already it looks like we might have a concern with injuries. Doesn't that tell you that we definitely need some backup at that centre-back? Oggy, love him. Another year he's been given on his contract, but at his age, with the greatest of respect, I know defenders, central defenders, can mature with age, etc. But I'd be worried starting with only Ogbonna, Zuma, and Agurd as our only choices at centre back. So hopefully there's some movement in the market for that, and I'll talk about some of the players that we're linked to, especially centre backs, in a moment. So on came Bowen, as I said. He took the armband, and on 75 minutes, he scored an excellent goal to put us three up front. Then another youngster who came on later in the game, Gideon Kadua, fantastic under-18s captain last season, made it 4 for West Ham before Boreham Wood pulled a goal back just before 90 minutes. So a good run out, good start, and not bad. But like I said, a little bit of a concern given that we may have lost Ogbonna to an injury. Let's hope it's nothing too serious. Now, of course, after the Boreham Wood game, the team go on a pre-season friendly over to Australia. And the first game is on the 15th when we play Perth Glory, which is at 11 o'clock. I believe that's our local time, I'm guessing. And then, of course, we play Spurs on the 18th at 11 o'clock as well. Now, from my understanding, those games will actually be televised as opposed to, unfortunately, the game against Boreham Wood that wasn't. But ironically, there was stuff on Twitter. They showed 1 or 2 highlights on Twitter. So you can go to the West Ham official Twitter site and you can see 1 or 2 of the a bit of the action there. Now, with regards to games, with friendlies, we've got Dagenham and Redbridge coming up when we return from our Australian tour, and then we go away to Rennes. We go away again to Rennes or Rons on the 29th of July. And that's followed up by a game that looks like it's kind of been squeezed in. We play Bayer Leverkusen on the 5th of August over in Germany. I'm guessing that's got something to do with the fact that we've got Tim Stuyden as our technical director, who was technical director at Bayer Leverkusen before. And then, of course, our season kicks off for good. And we know we've had a few fixture changes. But the first one, thank goodness, it stays on Saturday, the 12th of August, against AFC Bournemouth. Let's hope that that game finishes in much the same way as the game there last season when we played them away when we won 4-0. And then our first fixture change is our first home game, which goes on a Sunday against Chelsea on Sunday, the 20th of August, with a kickoff at 4:30. And then we go on another away game, this time at Brighton, and another 4-0 result. But this time the 4-0 result wasn't in our favour. So let's hope we don't have the same result there. And that game is on the 26th of August at 5:30. That kickoff has been changed. And then we move on to playing Luton. We play Luton away, and that game's been moved as well to Friday, the 1st of September, with an 8 o'clock kickoff. Now, should Luton be scheduled to play in the Carabao Cup on the preceding Wednesday, then this fixture could still move again to Sunday, the 3rd of September at midday. And then we go on in our final fixture change for August, where we head to Anfield. We play Liverpool at 2 p.m. kickoff on Sunday, the 24th of September. There's a game before that, of course, an easy one, really. Saturday, the 16th of September against Man City at home. Nothing to worry about there, really. And then we finish off September where we're at home. We welcome Sheffield United. So a few changes. That's on Saturday the 30th, by the way. At the moment, that's a 3 o'clock kickoff. So a few changes. But hopefully we'll get a good preseason under our belts and be confident. I know what happened last season where our preseason was pretty awful and it kind of ran into the season itself, didn't it? So hopefully that won't happen again this season. There's some good fixtures coming up there. Bayer Leverkusen are a pretty decent team. Well, they should be. Tim Stuyden put half of it together, if not more than half of it together. So that will be a good challenge. And what of Stuyden? You know, we kind of we welcomed him, but we're waiting for some magic from him now, aren't we? Now, he comes to West Ham with a fantastic reputation. By the way, I will look at your chat in a minute. But I do apologise. I'm going to run through a lot of this, but I will get to your chat. Good evening to you all, by the way, if I hadn't already said that. Now, Stuyden, he comes with a fantastic reputation for uncovering some fantastic talent in the clubs that he's been sporting director, director of football, technical director, all these different roles that he's been at. But Stuyden is not just only about young and up-and-coming players. He also has a knack for getting players in who may not quite have done it elsewhere. But he sees enough in those players to warrant them another opportunity. And I guess one of the classic examples of this is when he took a young 21-year-old, Kevin De Bruyne, who went to Chelsea at that time for a fee of £7 million in 2012. Didn't quite work out for him. He was snapped up by Stuyden for Werder Bremen at the time. Took him on a loan there when he was sporting director. And I guess the rest is history. He kind of made his name there. He then got sold to Wolfsburg for £20 million. And then, of course, went to Man City only 18 months later for £70 million? So whilst a lot of fans are understandably panicking that we've yet to sign any players, I'm sitting quietly confident at the moment because we've acquired one of the best talent spotters in football that you could have. He's got a nickname called the Pearl Diver. And that's because he just finds some incredible talent from the world of football, all based on his dedicated, data-driven analysis of players. And I'm still asking myself, how have we managed to get Stuyden over Liverpool, Chelsea, and Spurs, who are all interested in him? But he must have been sold a vision. by Sullivan about what what his role will be at West Ham United. I know we've heard all this stuff about transfers will be made by committee where it'll be Noble, Steiden, and Moyes and Sullivan all involved. Let's take that with a little bit of pinch of salt, to be quite honest with you, because Steiden hasn't come in to be one of the committee. My understanding is, and my gut tells me, Steiden's come in to be the main man. Absolutely. He's got to work with David Moyes. We know about Noble. Noble's there to be learning of Steiden. What we want Mark Noble to do over the next 2-3 years, however long Steiden's contract's for, is to have an understanding of how Steiden works so he can take over that mantle. So I don't believe that Noble will have too big a say, with the greatest of respect to him, in transfers at the moment. I think he'll have an awful lot of input with regards to young players coming through and talking to Steiden about that, so Steiden can understand, who we've got in the under-21s and that can maybe fill a role, like Mumbama, for example, up front. But I think Steiden's going to be the main man. Absolutely, he's got to work with the manager in getting players in, but I'm not quite sure he's going to it's going to be all this by committee, etc. Now, we've all heard about the Alex Scott story. I'm not going to go over that again. I've been told again today that the meeting didn't even happen between Alex Scott, his representatives, and West Ham United. So let's leave that there because I don't want to get into that. But it's a bit of it's a shame that there seems to be a lot of concern around the club, and we haven't even kicked a ball. Well, we have. We kicked a ball in pre-season, but I think we just need to be calm at this moment. And I know it's easy to say that, but I think we just got to be a little bit calm and see how things pan out, because there's an awful lot of rumor about players going, more players going than players coming. Now, before I get into that, let me go into your chat and say hello to people, because I've seen there's about 140 messages already. So let me scroll all the way up to say hello to you all. So who have we got? Good evening to you, Anthony. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Must play Bristol City. They're asking price for Scott. The same with Leicester for Harvey Barnes. Forget about Ward-Prowse and keep Flynn Downs. He is of interest, Alex Scott, and so is Barnes. Areola should be our number one keeper. My gut tells me Areola should be, and I'm going to talk about the squad number changes in a moment and give you a little bit of insight into that. Good evening to you, Graham. I hope you're well. Good evening, Daypan. I hope you're well. Fabianski. Well, he's been given a 1-year extension, so he's not going anywhere. Who's new cap? Well, we don't know. Depan. At the moment, it looks like it will be Creswell, but as many people say, Creswell won't necessarily play every single game. I think Oggy. I think if you look at who the captains were last season, we had 3 vice captains. We had Ogbonna, we had Creswell, and we had Fabianski. Now, it's quite possible that all 3 may continue to be vice captains. I don't know who will be captain. It's interesting that Bowen got the captain's armband after Ogbonna went off, but I'm not sure that it'll be Bowen who'll be our future captain. It's an interesting question, and I don't know the answer at this moment. Good evening, Daniela. Everyone, Barnes for Lazzarini, for Lanzini, maybe. Well, they're not like for like, but good evening, Peter. Well, you know me, and you know what I'm like about when we talk about things. You know how an awful lot of it is an awful lot of paper talk. This is the one thing I always say. I mean, I'm reading stuff, and I responded to a few things on Facebook earlier today where people were like, really like sinking ship, etc., etc., etc. Don't panic. You know, we will get players in. I don't think we're going to do that much business in the transfer market, to be honest with you. There will be a few players leaving on top of Lanzini and Declan Rice. Absolutely. There will always be a refresh. But as I've said a few times before, last summer, we had the revolution in the squad. We needed 8 new players, and that was a massive change. This summer, I think it's going to be a bit more of an evolution. We're going to have players leaving. We're going to have players coming. I think it will be a one in, one out scenario. And at the moment, we've only lost Lanzini, and we know Declan Rice is going at the end of the week or whatever. My understanding is it will be done and dusted by the end of the week. So I think what will happen is there'll be a player leaving and a player coming in. I don't think we're going to make wholesale changes. My gut tells me at most, we're going to probably get 5 players in at most. And I think that would be pushing it. If we get less than that, it wouldn't surprise me. I think, maybe about 4. And I'll go over the areas that I think we could strengthen in a moment. So There's, of course, Benrahma was named today as yet another player who's been added to the list of players that are leaving or going to be sold. Now, at the weekend when I did a show, I talked about 15 players that were listed as leaving West Ham or rumoured to be leaving West Ham. And then today we've got Pablo Fornals, Maxwell Cornet, Said Benrahma. That now makes 18 players. Now, you believe what you want to believe, but trust me, there's no way on earth we're getting rid of 18 players in one summer transfer window. It will be absolute lunacy, absolute madness, no strategic approach at all. It just won't happen. So when you read these stories, sometimes you've got to go, nah, really? Look, I get why Benrahma might be listed. There's an awful lot of talk about, how he doesn't get on with Moyes. He always seems to be picked upon. And rightly, we've seen it. We've seen it for ourselves. Moyes seems to have difficulty sometimes trying to give him praise where praise is due. He seems to go, oh yeah, he did all right, but he could do better. And of course that's no good. And I get why the rumours start coming out about maybe him leaving. Look, in all honesty, every player, whether you like to hear this or not, every player's got a price. If a good price comes in, if a £25 million offer came in for Benrahma, I'm certain that the club would think, should we? If an £80 million bid came in for Paquetá, should we? Yeah, there's absolutely going to be that conversation. But trust me, there isn't going to be 18-player exodus from West Ham United. So, who is likely to leave? Well, if you watch the show on Saturday, the show I did on Saturday, I picked out one or two players that I think, there's a potential for them to leave. All right, I'm going to go back into the chat again and say hello to you all. E. Davis, I'll go on to who I think will leave in a minute. Good evening. I think Benrahma is very important. He keeps the ball very well, gets us up the field. I think Barnes is too similar to Bowen. The good thing about Barnes is he plays on the left-hand side. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean Benrahma will be leaving. I think that will just give us strength in depth. Let's not forget, we're back in Europe again for the third season in a row. We're going to need not only to have a strong enough squad to play in the Premier League, we're going to need that squad in Europe as well. And this time, people, it's the important cup. We've been mocked for having won a pointless trophy, etc. That pointless trophy is the first trophy we've won for over 40-odd years, 43 years, etc. And that pointless trophy has got us back into Europe yet again. So not so pointless after all. And with regards to Barnes, he plays on the other side of the field. So I get it, similar, maybe in style, but they won't be competing with each other. But that means that Benrahma could be utilised more centrally, for example. He did that when he was at Brentford. He was played more centrally. Let's scroll down and say hello to people. Good evening, Vinay. Barnes is off to Newcastle. Well, not necessarily, because that was the rumour, but nothing's happened. Also, Benny is underestimated. I agree. His mere presence scares the opposition and hold back. Yeah, look, we've heard the story about Barnes going to Newcastle, but they've got something like about 4 wingers on each side, Sam Maximin, etc., etc. So they're going to have to decide, is that really their priority area to strengthen? I'm not so sure. The story's out there, but I'm not so sure. Anthony, the idea is to strengthen the squad, not weaken it. Sending Rice was stupid. No choice, Anthony. The player, we knew the player wanted to leave. It was, the worst kept secret in football, in all honesty. And, to be really, really honest with you, I can't wait to get the Rice saga out of the way. Not because I want the player gone. Of course, you want your best players to stay. But I think it might be a blessing in disguise. And you may think I'm stupid saying that, but I genuinely do think that this may be a good thing for us because of a number of things. And I'm going to come on to a player that's also potentially looking at going, and I'll explain why in a minute. But we shouldn't rely on one player, to make our team. Yes, he's been important without a shadow of a doubt, but it's our opportunity to strengthen in a different way and maybe get other players playing in a better way. So we shouldn't hang our hats just on one player. Good evening, old man Ang. Old man. Good evening, old. Benny, unfortunately, has been Moyes, and his end product has been moised. His end product has suffered. First thought is defensively. Yeah, I agree with that. Usual suspect. Good evening to you. Stop the nonsense. Barnes was or is never going to sign for West Ham. We don't know that. That's the beauty of the transfer window. We actually do not know that. I think we might stand a better chance of getting Barnes than many people think, just because Newcastle have are interested. They've made no bid, they've made no offer, they've made no approach. So I think, my YouTube channel. Good evening to you, my YouTube channel. Benrahma to stay. He's only 6 million on FPL. Is he? Is that all? Anthony, come on, still put the camera. I haven't drunk a drop. Well, I did at the weekend. Fucking suffered for it. Andy, good evening all. If Moyes has anything to do with getting in new players, we'll be waiting a long time and end up being disappointed. I have no faith in chat. Have faith. And the reason why I say have faith is because of Steiden. Honestly and truly, I think they will. I think they will find a way to work together. It will be not in David Moyes' interest to block anything, as we sort of all these stories we hear. So I say hold tight and have faith. Good evening, Paul. I hope you're well. Good evening, Hammerette. How are you? Good evening to you, Aaron. I hope you're well. 4-1, they might as well give the Premier League trophy now. Good evening, Jonathan. I hope you're well. I will respond to your email, I promise you. And my apologies for not having done so already. Good evening, Early Doors. How are you? Evening, everyone. Hope we're all well. Thank you. Oh, man. There is an internal war. Sullivan wants Moyes gone, but doesn't want to be seen unfaithful as he has won a trophy. So he's manipulated in getting Steiden in to make issues. Do you know what? I actually, in a roundabout sort of way, agree with that. I think Sullivan hedged his bets. I think we were going to get a technical director in anyway. There was all this talk about, that we didn't get a value for money in the transfer window last season, et cetera, and Sullivan wanted a little bit more assurance as to how we spend the money. I think he also, what you said, I've said this myself, I think he kind of thought, I'll bring a technical director in. That might make Moyes go, I don't want to be part of this. I think Moyes has called Sullivan's bluff. I really do. I think he's turned around and gone, yeah, bring it on. Technical director, let's see what he can do. So it's kind of backfired, but I get you. Juha, good evening to you. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Zuma's cat. I hope you're looking after that cat. Good evening to you. Look at that. I love the photo. Kalispera to you, Keith. I hope you're well. Now, my apologies. Clearly, I can't go through every single comment. I'll try my best, but I will have to skip some. So I do apologize if I skip some of your comments. Good evening to you, Keith. I hope you're well. Good evening, GP. I hope you're well. Pete Gads, I hope you're well. 30 degrees sunny in Detroit. That's weird weather here. 1 minute it's sunny, next minute it's cold, next minute it's windy. I don't know what's going on. Happy Hammer it. Nice to see the youth scoring. By all accounts, it sounded like Downs had a decent game. Downs certainly did, by the sounds of it, without a doubt. Bill, it's not just the fans in a quandary over any new players. Well, I think the fans are more in a quandary than anyone else. Usual suspect. If West Ham sign Barnes, I'll eat my hats, and it's a sombrero. I'll get it posted to you tomorrow, mate. Good evening, Martin. I hope you're well. Moisaurus, good evening to you. What league are Boreham Wood in? It doesn't matter. It's a pre-season friendly. Let's not get hung up on that. Let's not get hung up on, oh, God, they're a whatever team. It doesn't matter. It's a kick around. Even if we lost 10-0, it would not matter. All these pre-season friendlies don't matter. It's important to get the momentum going. I don't care what league they're in. We're building up. We're going to then play a few other teams that are, what about Spurs? Are we going to say, oh, well, it's only Spurs if we beat it? No, don't care. Don't matter. It is what it is. It's a friendly. Adam, all right, Stel, we'll just have to wait and see on transfers, but we can hope. Absolutely. I totally agree. I get it. I do get why people get a little bit nervous, but I know I'm always, half glass full man rather than half glass empty, and I know you can, put me down for that. But I just feel that I'll be very honest with you. If we didn't get Steiden in during the summer, I'd be extremely worried as well. But the fact that Steiden is in, he's come in to bring in a new way of changing the club. He's not just come in about getting players in. That's not his. That's one of his primary roles, without a shadow of a doubt. But he's come in to sort of change the whole ethos of the club. I think I talked about it in a show. I can't remember when I did it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever, when I talked about Steiden. Steiden's role elsewhere has been not only about players, but also about coaches, bringing coaches in, about the whole ethos of the way we manage transfers, the whole ethos of how the club operates. If you remember me saying, I've said that quite a few times now, that in terms of the business, the West Ham United FC business, we run that pretty well, whether you like it or not. Unfortunately, it's true. Moving stadium, I know it wasn't to everyone's liking, but in terms of business, it was, it was a good business move. But in terms of the footballing side of the club, we haven't done that well. We've never had a transfer strategy or a philosophy on how we nurture our youth, for example. We've been known as the Academy of Football. And the one thing that we get criticized for now is that we don't bring the youth through. Steiden is all about that. Steiden is all about, the infrastructure of the club, the players that we bring in, the youth system, etc., etc. I think we're going to see a change. It may happen gradually. We may not see it like that. But I think what we will see is a change over time. And this will be the start of it. That's why I'm hopeful. I know. I'm optimistic. Good evening, Duke. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Hammerer, Emerson took the captaincy after Cressy and Oggy tonight. I thought it was Bowen. I'm pretty sure it said Captain Bowen scored a goal. Am I wrong? Oggy is going to struggle. Elbow. Yeah, I'm worried about him. One season too many sometimes, as I often say. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Good evening to you, El Chico. Oggy played 62 minutes. No, he didn't play the first half. I'm pretty certain he didn't play the first half. Let me just have a look at that lineup. Let's bring that up. No, he didn't. He came on at half time. Oggy was a sub, and he came on at half time. No, you're absolutely right. I take that back. There he is, halfway down. Sorry about that. Forget all that stuff about Oggy being injured. I do apologize, and I'm sorry to have scared you. It scared me. You know what? For some reason, I thought he came on at halftime. There you go. Anyway, as Hammerette knows, if I don't make a mistake in the show, it's not a stealth show. So forget all that stuff about Oggy. I didn't realize he came on at halftime. Oggy is a good pro, but is too slow. If he's against pace, and we need to strengthen in defense and midfield up front. Just what want Antonio gone. I don't want to speak too much about Antonio. Sorry about the Oggy thing. I really effed up there, didn't I? Good evening to you, John. How are you? Damn, must have been on time. Sorry, I'm fashionably late. I didn't do. I got on pretty reasonably early today. Good day, Stell. Love the show. Thank you, James. Much appreciated. Even if I do f up and give you all the wrong information. So there you go. Why did I think Oggy was started on the bench? There you go. I shouldn't rush a show, should I? Who else have we got? Let's scroll down. Early doors. No, Jonathan. Last season we had a lack of games in pre-season, so we seem to be off the ball and unfit. Combine that with the results, and we entered the season in poor form. So I'm encouraged by the increase in games. We did actually have quite a few games last season. It's just that they were all pretty bad, and I don't think we won that many. Moisaurus. We have the best talent spotter and best creative talent destroyer. Let's see. Have faith. Have absolute faith. Good evening, Schmiegel. I hope you're well. Flemmer, good evening to you. Until Moyes will be gone, hoping in the first 3 games. Won't happen. I'm not excited at all for the season coming. See, look, people, we are European champions. We did actually do pretty well in Europe, even though we didn't do that well in the league. I've got a lot more faith than a lot of people seem to have. And maybe, like I said, maybe it's because I'm always half glass full, man. But I think it's going to be an okay season. I can't see this season being anywhere near as bad as last season. Famous last words? I don't know. Ballon, good evening to you. Funny how some fans are losing their minds so early in the window. We rarely do business early. That is very true. Good evening to you, Lincoln Harper. Thank you for joining, mate. I hope you're well. Christophe, good evening to you. Great to finally catch up. Great, thank you. Been a while, loving the content. Thank you, mate. Even though I do completely screw up. Good evening, Hammers. I love Benrahma. Please say he stays. I think he will. I don't honestly think Benrahma will go to be. I don't think he will. I think he's proven to be quite an important player for David Moyes, and I would be surprised. I think Benrahma will be used in a bit of a different way next season. If we do get Harvey Barnes, and I know a lot of you don't think we will. If we do get Harvey Barnes, then I think we'll see there'll be a rotation. That we need that, don't we? We could even see Bowen for example, going more centrally and maybe Barnes on one side and Benrahma on the other. And the one thing that we keep talking about is we don't want square pegs in round holes. And the one thing that we've done, Moyes has done a lot of over the past few seasons, is doing that, where he's played Fornals out on the left because he hasn't had options or he hasn't trusted Benrahma enough or whatever. So having Barnes in doesn't necessarily mean that someone like Benrahma would leave. Hammerit, it's so easy to follow all the negative vibes, but I'm holding hope for something great to happen. Hold that hope. Schmiegel, the Steiden coming in might increase our chances of signing some good players from Bayer Leverkusen and some other Bundesliga talents. Not just from the Bundesliga, but absolutely. If you start hearing stories about us being linked to players who either are German or have played in the German league, start thinking about Steiden. And there is a player that I'll talk about again when I get to some of the transfer stories. Good evening to you, Howard. I hope you're well. Everyone is getting so negative. Come on, we're massive. Absolutely. It's exactly the way we should be. Andy Carter, 2 games in Oz isn't really a tour. Well, I know, but if David Moyes had his way, he'd be in Scotland, where apparently it was freezing cold last week. Razor, good evening to you. Still, let me know when Tim kicks out this Moyes, please, as Sullivan doesn't have the balls. Hope he's getting in new backroom staff and coaches. Well, we've got several coaching roles available. I've no doubt that Steiden will have an input as to who we get in. I know I can't remember the guy's name, but I know the Arsenal coach who's worked with Moyes before it might be available. He might be coming in. I don't know, but I haven't heard much about that at the moment. But I've no doubt we will start hearing because we've got several roles available, and I've no doubt Steiden will have an input there as well. Flammer, the owners will regret keeping Moyes for the new season. I hope and believe he will go in the first 3 to 5 games. I don't think he will. I think people are talking about October, November, maybe even up to Christmas. If it's not going so well, in all honesty, I'm with you. I don't think he'll last much longer than Christmas. If it's not going so well, if we are in a relegation dogfight again by Christmas, I can see him going. Elbow. Ironically, had Skamaka been more in tune with it all, he'd have been a decent shout as captain. Interesting call. I'm not so sure. Only because I don't like strikers being captains. I don't think that works, to be honest. For me, a captain's got to be either a midfielder or a centre back. But each to their own. Jonathan, excuse me. We get 2 in for Rice and stay the same. 4 to 6 needed to progress, but we won't. Not this window. We won't get 4 in. And I'm interested in this. We need 2 players in to replace Rice. You can only play one of them at a time. I think it will. I don't think we will get up to 6 players. I think, like I said earlier, I think we get 4. That would probably be. But of course, it depends on how many leave as well. Good evening to you, Graham. Very unlike West Ham last season, we never buy 7 or 8 players. No, we won't. And we won't do it this season. It'd be highly, highly unlikely. Good evening to you, Lord Patrick. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. John, 18 players out. This must be another transition year. Moyes out by Christmas. See, but this is the thing. You believe all the stories and you will think that there's a complete exodus going on. And like I said in the show I did on Saturday, I had 15 players counted. And the other 3 that I've just mentioned makes 18. It's just ridiculous, really. Razor, new owner still. No way Sullivan ever heard of this geezer, Tim. Maybe. I know you. I love your conspiracy theories, Razor. But believe me, he made inquiries. Look, as the story goes, or the story I've been told goes, Sullivan wanted to get in a technical director or a director of football, whatever, one or the other. And he started to ask around. He started to ask, tell me who these people are that I can go to, that I can approach, etc., and start talking to them. And Steiden was one of the. Steiden left Leverkusen back in March, and from what we seem to understand, he was on gardening leave because that's why he couldn't join us until this month. And they had a conversation, and he managed to look. Steiden was being chased by Liverpool, Chelsea, and Spurs, or at the very least, those 3 clubs were talking to him. Now, they've all got a lot more money than we have to spend. Well, Spurs, cheap Levy. But in essence, Liverpool, a better structure, I guess, than we have. With Klopp, German, he could have been working for him. Chelsea, money bags. They can seem to spend money like it's like there's no tomorrow. So there's a good reason why Steidten must have come here. It can't just be for the paycheck. I think he has been given a vision. I think he's been told, listen, this is your baby. This is for you. And one of the reasons why Steidten left, by the way, was because he fell out with some of the directors or one of the directors at Leverkusen, because he seemed to have a lot of his power taken away from him, or it seemed to be diluted. So he's not going to go from there, where his power was diluted, to come to West Ham, where his power is going to be diluted. So I think this is the real deal. I'm hoping it is. I could be completely wrong, but let's see. GP, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it. No, all the other chats are all right. They do their own thing. But thank you so much, GP. Much appreciated. Bill, can't let Benny go. We need someone who takes a decent penalty. Boy, oh boy, didn't he take a fantastic penalty in the final? Hey, it's another reason why he can't go. John, Stel, I'm in UK on the 20th. Want to catch up and buy me a Jameson? No, you can catch up and you can buy me a spice rum. How about that? Yes, mate. Message me and let's meet up. Kian, good evening to you. How are you? Is your mum around? Is Julie here? All right, Stel. See you. You see the under-21 final, couple of decent players. I didn't watch it, to be honest with you. I know Johnson was part of that, but I didn't, mate. I heard there's some. I heard the way they play is absolutely superb as well, but unfortunately, I missed it. I didn't see it. Good evening to you, Joseph. How are you? Sullivan and Moyes out. Lovely to have you back, mate. I hope you're well. Lee, good evening to you. Hi, Stella and chat. Hope all is well. Hit the thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated. Daniela, looking at what is happening in the window so far, it seems that not a lot of money. There's not a lot of money being spent. There's one or two clubs that are doing business. Arsenal, all of a sudden, seem to have found their back pocket wallet, and one or two other clubs, so Aston Villa, etc. But you're right. There's not that much activity happening. I guess maybe something needs to trigger it. Maybe when Rice is finally sold, maybe that will trigger some of the signings coming through. Who knows? But you're right. There's not a lot of activity going on at the moment. Ashley, getting pissed off now with the bottlers taking time to sort out the medical for Declan. He was tapped up by Arteta. It was there for all to see. Do you know what? He was tapped up. Now we're hearing stories that he was talking to Declan Rice back in December or whenever it was. Fucking outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. It shouldn't be allowed. It should absolutely not be allowed. I think it's poor. But we're going to have to put all this behind us and just going to have to move on, because he's going to go, and all this thing about his medical. Well, let me tell you a little story that I was told earlier on. He had his medical on Friday, part one. He had his part two medical on Saturday, and then he pissed off to Portugal. He's over in Portugal at the moment on holiday. That's his third holiday. Now, look, every player is entitled to 3 weeks off. And the last game that Declan Rice played was about just under 3 weeks ago when he played for England. Was it about 3 weeks ago, give or take? So they're entitled to 3 weeks off. So he had a week off with his missus and the baby, came back. And then he had a week off with his mates to Ibiza or whatever. Came back, did the part one and part two. The medicals are done. Part one and part two medicals, and then now he's over in Portugal. So he'll apparently be back at some time later this week, and that's when it will be signed. And by the way, Arsenal have yet to give us our money. Where's the money, I ask? Because they haven't paid us, and he won't go anywhere until we get our first down payment. So Arsenal, dig in your wallets, get that 33 million out. And hurry up. That's why it's all being held up, mate. Let's scroll down. Early doors. Newcastle just have interest, and so do we. Exactly. But media saying we still have a chance of getting him. Exactly. Newcastle not willing to play the Leicester fee. Yes, I read that today. Leicester want so chance we go in the right price. Look, Harvey Barnes is for West Ham United. Look, we're interested. Now, please do not misunderstand when I say this. We're interested in about 20 players. We've got 20 players on a list. That doesn't mean we're going to make bids for 20 players. So please bear that in mind. But we have an interest of 20 players on a list, of which Harvey Barnes, from what I've been told several times, is top of that list. He is our number one target. Now, of course, we're going to need to get a replacement for Declan Rice. So if something comes up, to replace Declan Rice sooner rather than later, that might be the first player we bring in, a direct replacement for Rice. But we are very interested in Harvey Barnes, and I hope a deal gets done. And I agree with you, early doors. If we put the right bid in, why not get him at West Ham? I think he might if you look at Newcastle, they're going to have, like I said, they've got 4 or 5 players out on the wing already. Is he going to want to go there and go, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get any game time here, or I might play the odd game, or I might play every other game. Who knows? That's what happens when you have money bags and you get a big squad. At West Ham, he will be played every week. Hazari, good evening to you. Why is everyone annoyed about people leaving? Give us a new path for our future after Moyes as well. This is it. We should not get upset when players leave. And this is another reason why Steiden has come in. Steiden has come in order to change that ethos. Look at Brighton. Look at Brentford. Look at these teams that we actually envy at the moment. Every time they lose a big player, Brighton, prime example, every time they lose a player who does really well for them, everyone goes, that's it, they're fucked. And then out pops another player who's not only as good as, but sometimes better than the player that they've just sold for 50 million. What's that name? Cucurella or Cucurella, whatever, the left back. Fantastic for Brighton. What did he go to Chelsea for? 50 odd million pounds, 40 odd million pounds? He's been shite. And yet they brought in another player and they've gone, all right, that left back spot is yours, mate. Off you go. And he plays just as well, if not better. That's where we need to get to. And that's what Steiden has been brought in to do. Fingers bloody crossed. Anyway, Razor. Benrahma, Moyes needs to go as soon as possible. Moyes doesn't get on with anyone. You can see that with all his back himself. But this is the thing, Razor. With respect to you, mate, this is what we're told. It's not necessarily true. Look, we've seen it ourselves, absolutely. That Moyes seems to find it difficult to praise Benrahma. Not denying that. But we don't actually know if he's going to be sold. Like I said earlier in the show, any player that, every player's got a price, and quite possibly, if a decent price comes in for Benrahma and we've got someone lined up to replace him, it might happen. But I'm not so sure Benrahma will go, to be quite honest with you. I'm really not. Schmiegel. Did anyone here go and see Iron Maiden on Friday or Saturday? It's awesome. They're following me on that what's that new chat thing? Thread. I've got an Iron Maiden link. I don't know. Don't like the music, so I didn't go, mate. Sorry. Good evening, Raz. How are you? Do you know what happened between West Ham and Juventus for Zakaria? I'm going to get onto that in a moment. Good evening to you, Jason. Hi to you, mate. My fellow Euro champs. Before reacting to everything you hear, pause and think, do I want to be a trout to the bait? Don't fear success. Oh, well said, mate. Absolutely. Let's scroll down. Jason, none of us know what's happening. I'm not panicking at all regarding you, sir. I'll tell you when I'll panic. I'll panic a week before the transfer window shuts and we haven't brought anyone in. Then you'll start maybe see me panic a little bit. John, so sad for Doris the cleaner at Spurs not getting a transfer for us to clean the cups because she doesn't the experience. Greg, have we vacated the number 7 shirt for João Felix? No, but we have vacated the number 7 shirt. It's interesting, wasn't it, that he was wearing the shirt? Robert, hasn't the club been sold? No. Why is the DOF has been employed to safeguard the distribution of the right? That's why the director of football has been employed to safeguard the distribution of rice money. You're not far wrong. I think that's a valid point, actually, Robert, that he's been brought in to manage the money better for us in terms of who we buy. Not bad at all. I don't know, Ben, because I'd like to see the highlights too. I'm kind of hoping West Ham will put it on their official website later on tonight. Moyes or Estelle, can you start a funny rumor about Moyes, please? Oh, I'm shit at that, mate. Oh, I'll think of one. I'll try and think of one for later. Graham, the director of football has a huge task and it's going to take time, but patience will pay off. And he's probably going to be lining up a new manager. And I make you right. I think he will be lining up a new manager without a shadow of a doubt. When that will be, can't say. I don't know if that will happen. Like I said a moment ago, if we're not having a great season, he might be lining up a new manager sooner rather than later. If we have a half-decent season, he'll be lining up a new manager for when Moyes goes at the end of the season, because I don't think Moyes is going to be offered an extended contract. The only way, shut your ears, Razor, and everyone else who's anti-Moyes, the only way that Moyes will be offered a new contract is if we win the Europa League and we finish in the top 6 of the Premier League. What would you do then? I mean, I'm smiling, but what would you think and feel then? You know, if that happened, if we won the Europa League, that puts us in the Champions League, or even if we didn't finish it, let's say we finished in the top half of the league, but we won the Europa League, which would put us in the Champions League. What then? What would the board do then? I know I'm, almost the ridiculous, but then people didn't think we were going to win the Europa Conference, and we've ended up in Europe again. So what would happen then? I still don't think he'd be offered a new contract. Anyway, Keith79 Mod, good evening to you, mate. Hi, mate. Do you think Tilo Kehrer can move into Declan's old position, as he's good on the ball going forward and not a bad defender? It's a good shout. Thank you for the donation, mate. Again, really, really appreciated. It's a good shout. People were saying that at the end of last season as well, and that is not a bad shout. I think we will buy a defensive midfielder. I think that Kehrer could be an option there, without a shadow of a doubt. But I think we will. I think what Moyes will do, or what Steiden will do, or what both of them will do, I think they will get in a proper defensive midfielder. But I think that's a really, really good shout. I think he'd probably do quite well, to be honest with you, in that role. John, I just got an email from Trainline. There's a rail strike on the 20th. Pick me up at Gatwick. Dan, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well, mate. I hope everything's well with you. Let's scroll down. Sorry, John. Flyover. Trevor, good evening to you. Young Dara O'Shea has been sold from West Brom to Burnley for £7 million. We should have bought him. Good centre back. I don't know much about him, but I'll take your word for that. I genuinely don't know, but it could be. Look, Burnley, let's be honest, have done extremely well, and we know that they're not going to buy anyone that's duff, so that could be a good signing for them. Let's scroll down. Good evening, Funky T. How are you? I'm excited about the season. Team should be gelled now. Absolutely. Just gutted about losing our team captain. We move on, mate. We move on. Forget about him. Jason, Moyes is rumoured to be heading up a Scottish-Irish consortium, including Sir Alex Ferguson and racehorse owner JP Magna. An initial £700 million offer is believed to have been tabled under the table. I've got no clue if you're even telling me the truth or not, but I'll take your word for it. David, with Cornet in video, he doesn't look like he's going anytime soon. So as you said, he could play in a striker. Absolutely. This is why I said, you've got to be careful about Steve Round. Thank you for that, John. You've got to be careful about the rumours that come out, because then there's hardly any truth in a lot of them. Look, I keep being told in transfer window time, what happens is there are players that genuinely want to move. There are agents who want to move their players on, so they'll go to a journalist and go, "Oh yeah, so and so club is interested in my player," and then they write that, rumor is blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden that becomes going from a rumor to an actual, and before you know it, they're close. How many weeks have we been close to signing Denis Zakaria from Juventus? Apparently, apparently Juventus were here today talking about it. And when I asked, it's like, no, news to us, said the club. So there you go. Razor, spot on. Stel Steiden is going to be great for our club when at last he kicks Moyes out for the good that we move on. Folk, good evening to you, mate. I need a full transfer rumour roundup tonight. None of this I can't be bothered nonsense, please. P.S. Steve Round was the former Arsenal coach. Yeah, thank you. I've got that. A full roundup. I mean, honestly, I've got more players leaving than I've got players coming in, mate. But like I said earlier on, there are 20 names on a list. Now, I haven't been given the 20 names. I will try and get it, but I haven't been given the 20 names. And I can give you some of those names, and I will run through a few of them for you. Dan, the reason we need to replace, we need two to replace Rice, because we need a proper defensive midfielder and someone to play box-to-box roles, so Suchek can be moved on or sat on the bench. Why don't I go into the next part of the show and talk to you about the players that I mentioned earlier. Look, like I said, I'll recap. Apparently there's now 18 players at West Ham United senior team. I'm not talking about, academy players, development players or anything like that. 18 senior players. Now, we only had 24 last season, so we're going to have 6 left if you believe all the guff that's out there. 18 players. There's been a story on 18 players rumored to be leaving. And the 3 that have been added on, as I mentioned earlier, were Cornet, Fornals and Benrahma. Now, of these 18, who is actually likely to leave? So the one I keep being told about over and over again is Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, as I mentioned in the Saturday show, we're negotiating a contract. We offered him a 6.5-year contract, which he turned down. He wanted a shorter term contract, and obviously, rightly so, he wanted to be paid a salary commensurate with all the other senior players. My understanding is he's still on something like about 30, 35, 40 grand a week, and he wanted more. He wanted 60, etc. Now, look, the season before last season, he was absolutely fantastic for us, and at a time when he could probably demand that sort of fee. Now, last season, he was poor, really poor. It's such a shame. He just seemed to lose all his confidence for whatever reason. 23 years of age, he's got a lot of years ahead of him. He's a lifelong fan. He's been with us since the age of 7. I'd like to think that he can regain his form, and become a key player for us. And as someone mentioned earlier on, I think it was Kian, asked me, did I watch the under-21s championship final? I didn't, but I know Johnson was part of the squad. He played something like 4 or 5 games in that tournament where we beat Spain 1-0. Congratulations to them. I like Johnson, but absolutely, his form fell off a cliff. So I think if we can't agree some sort of if we can't get some sort of contractual agreement with him, it's quite possible we will see Ben Johnson leaving. Now, a question mark over Flynn Downs. And as I said again at the weekend, Flynn Downs is an interesting player. He had a good game tonight. But people are asking, can he make that step up? Look, we're not expecting Flynn Downs to become the next Declan Rice. There's a massive difference. We know that. But can Flynn Downs go from being just a squad player to being an integral part of the first team on a regular basis? And that's the big question mark. Look, there's a big interest of Flynn Downs to go to Southampton. And the reason being is Russell Martin, who was his manager at Swansea, has now taken over Southampton. And he thinks extremely highly of Flynn Downs. And in the season that he was at Southampton, my understanding is he was he had the highest percentage of passes or pass success rate or whatever it was when he played for Swansea. So clearly he can do it in the Championship without a doubt. I think the question is, can he do it in the Premier League? And all right, maybe he didn't get enough chances. I mean, he did make at least 35 odd appearances last season, which wasn't bad. But can he actually take that big step up to become an integral key player? Not suggesting to be a new Declan Rice, but to be as near as damn it. Do we think that he can do it? And I think that's the big question mark about Downs. Absolutely a decent young player. Absolutely, he's got talent, but can he do it on a consistent basis in the Premier League? That is the bit that we don't know about. Absolutely, he could do it in the Championship, but can he do that in the Premier League? Don't know. So that's why I think quite possibly, depending on who we might go for, Downs might go. He might go. And then, as you've just mentioned, Dan, then we talk about Thomas Souček. Thomas Souček is in his last year of his contract. Now, all right, he's had a couple of poor seasons. But here's my theory. I'm going way back now to what I said earlier in the show about not worrying about letting Declan Rice go. Because I think, what you've said it yourself, Dan, I think what we're going to do, we're going to bring in a solid defensive midfielder. That will be our pivot in midfield, who will allow the likes of Souček and Paquetá to actually do their stuff. I think Souček, if he stays, it can go 2 ways. It can go 2 ways. If he stays, I think with a defensive midfielder sitting behind, you will see a little bit of the old Souček that first came to West Ham. A little bit of a box-to-box player, more sort of more aggressive in the penalty box, getting those goals, headers, and all that sort of stuff. It's quite possible, on the other hand, that if we get an offer for him, if we get a 15 million offer for Thomas Souček in his last season, we will take that. We will take that. So I think it's a bit 50-50. I think it's slightly veering towards him leaving. But that really is down to who else we're going to go for in central midfield. So that, I think, is quite a possible one. And then the obvious, one of these three players are going. Now, I really don't think it's Scamacca. I think he's kind of been proven. Talk about the shirt numbers in a moment. But I don't think it's Scamacca. So now you're looking at Antonio and you're looking at Danny Ings. Now, look, congratulations to Antonio. They're in the semi-finals of the Gold Cup that he has helped them to get there. He hasn't scored that many goals. Actually, he hasn't scored any goals. He's made one assist in the 4-1 win over Trinidad. But look, let's take nothing away from him. He's part of that squad, and they've done really well reaching the semi-finals of the Gold Cup. Now, we know Antonio has been pushing for a move. You know, he talked about it in the January transfer window, suggesting, there's interest and blah, blah, blah. Just like Souček, if an offer came in for Antonio, I think we'll let him go. I really do. I think, there are clubs that will kind of look out for bringing a player like that in. Nottingham Forest, maybe. I can see the likes of Everton going for Antonio. So I can even see the likes of Crystal Palace going in for a player like Antonio. I think if an offer came in, circa 10 mil, I think he'll go. And then Danny Ings. Look, I made a suggestion at the weekend that he could be a swap deal. Harvey Barnes coming one way, Ings going the other way, and money as well. And someone rightly pointed out to me, I think one of my viewers, Richard Walton, said there's no way that Leicester can afford his salary. And I didn't think of that. And I thought, actually, you know what? You're absolutely right. They won't be able to afford his salary. But I think just like Antonio, I think there'll be clubs that will be looking at Ings and going, you know what? He can fit our system, and I think he can get us goals. Again, the likes of Nottingham Forest might be a team that might come in for him. So I think we could lose one, maybe even two strikers. And then, of course, that will mean we've got to buy a striker to replace. And then, of course, there's Mbama from the under-21s. So I think there's a possibility that we could lose maybe one, perhaps two of our strikers. And what of Gianluca Scamacca? Well, we keep hearing the story that Roma want to get him in on loan. That ain't happening. West Ham have said categorically, it doesn't serve our interest to give you a player on loan, and then we've got to go out and find a player to replace him, either have to buy him or try and get someone on loan. You're not going to give away a decent striker to replace Scamacca to come in at West Ham. So that ain't going to happen. And then, of course, we heard this obscure story from that AC Milan want to swap him plus cash for Divock Origi. What on earth? Divock Origi, when he was at Liverpool, we kept being linked to him. We never made an offer for him. Divock Origi, when he became a free agent and then went to AC Milan, we didn't try to get him and didn't put an offer in for him to try and entice the player. So why on earth now are we going to want to swap Scamacca for Origi? Why? We haven't, if we had the opportunity, if we wanted to make offers when he was at Liverpool or when he's sitting on the bench and when he was a free agent and we didn't do it. So why on earth would we do it now? So let's put that story in the bin where it deserves to go. Right. So I talked about player shirt numbers. Scamacca, he's exchanged his shirt number for a number 11. Yeah, I like that. It does, I think. I think it proves that he's staying. I really do. Why change his shirt number if he's going to go? So there you go. Maxwell Cornet, he's moved from number 14 to number 17, and I get that too. Cornet, when he started his playing career for FC Metz and also for Olympique Lyonnais, wore the number 17 shirt. People have asked me, what about Areola? Doesn't it show that Areola going from number 13 to number 23, that he's out the door? No. Does it show that he's not going to be our first choice keeper? No. The reason why is Areola wears the number 23 shirt for France. So, kind of makes sense again. If that's the shirt number he wants, we hear that Declan Rice, when he goes to Arsenal, he wants the number 41 shirt. So, I get that as well. And then, of course, we've got Paqueta. Being given the number 10 shirt. And what do you associate when you see a player number 10 shirt? The flair player, the key player. He is the key player. So even Newcastle might be, or PSG might be interested. We've said to Lucas, that's your shirt, mate. Number 10. You are our star player. And that's why he's not going to go either. There's these shirt number changes. If any of those 4 players are going to be sold, what is the point of giving them a different shirt number? So I think it's a good thing. And of course, as someone mentioned earlier, that does leave the number 7 shirts available. So what are we going to do with that number 7 shirt? I mean, surely, it makes sense, doesn't it? Not our Führer. Sorry about the misspellings. You could see I was rushing the show, getting the show ready. Our future number 7. Why not? Why not? My apologies for the misspellings. Anyway, that takes me on to the new kit, doesn't it? There's been an outcry, hasn't there? No one likes the kit. I hate the kit, hate the bubbles, etc. You know what? Actually, compared to last season's kit, home kit, I actually quite like it. I think it's all right. I don't mind it. I don't like the bubble rubbish on it, but I'm not. It's a little bit. If they just left it plain rather than those sort of silly bubble motif, it's quite a traditional shirt. And the thing is, where's the blue sort of neck thing? Other than that, I ain't got a problem with it. And apparently, everyone's really upset that it's gone up in price. It's expensive. So go to DH Gate and buy yourself one for 10 quid. Look, I don't like the shorts. I don't like the claret shorts and the stripy socks. And apparently there's a lot of talk about the socks during the friendly today. They look effing horrible. And yes, they do. They do look horrible. Really. But I've got to be honest. These shirts, these kits haven't been designed for a 61-year-old man. They've been designed for the kids out there. They're going to love them. They're going to get dad and mum to buy their shirts and the shorts and the stripy socks and all that. So I dare say the young fans will be flocking to buy this kit. I like it. I don't like the claret shorts. I don't like the stripy socks. But then I'm not going to be full kit wanker and go and buy the whole thing. I'm going to buy the bloody shirt, for 10 quid in DH Gate. All right. Let's go back in the chat and I'll do the last part of the show, which is all about all the transfers, all these players that we're meant to be buying. So let's go into the chat. Now, I do apologize. I'm going to have to skip a few because that comment was half an hour ago. That's not bad. Let me start from that. Huge. Good evening to you. Why would Moyes buy players for the future when he's only here for 1 year? Why spend 25 million of his budget on Alex Scott? Don't think he will. He wants to see the best of him. More likely, Ward-Prowse worthless in a couple of years. Might be. Jason, if I am scared of feeling the hurt of failing again, then if I don't try to achieve anything again, I won't feel the hurt again. Philosophy of a doom and gloomer. I like that. Elbow. Still, would you take Emil Smith-Rowe? Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. Old man, you need to try Bacardi 8. It's just no, I don't like Bacardi. Don't like. That's not a proper rum. Because it's whiskey based, and I don't like that. Raz, I will try Bacardi 8 though. I might go and find it. Raz, if Ings and Antonio leave, why would you like to see? Who would you like to see just West Ham as a new striker? You know what? I haven't really thought much about it because I kind of convinced myself that we're not likely to get. I don't know, to be honest with you. I keep all the stories I've been told and all the stories I keep reading are all about defenders, central midfielders, and attacking players. And I've got a feeling that we may not even buy a striker. I've got a feeling that if Harvey Barnes does come in, if we get like an attacking winger, like I said earlier, I think that will give Moyes options of who we can play. Look, I know we don't like it. We'd rather have an out-and-out striker, but we know Moyes can't use a striker. But I've got a feeling that he will start using the likes of Benrahma more centrally and Cornet more centrally and Bowen more centrally. And I think he'll keep Scamacca and maybe another striker. There's also Mbama as well, who I think I keep saying I think he might go out on loan. Let's just see how he does in pre-season. He might win in his place as a permanent fixture in the first team. We might not get to see a lot of him, but we might see a bit of him. But I think maybe for his own development, I think he might be better off going out on loan. But anyway, let's say he stays. So I'm not thinking that we'll get a striker in. We'll keep Scamacca. We might have Mbama as a backup. And then Moyes will go Bowen, Benrahma, Cornet. that can all sort of play that central role, and he may go for that. So I don't know, to be honest with you, mate. Pigaz, I've watched some Jamaican games, and Antonio still hasn't got any form. I don't know. We're not buying Origi. Trust me. Absolutely, we're not. I think there was a moment in time where I would have loved us to have Origi. I remember when he was playing for Liverpool, coming off the bench, he always seemed to perpetually score every time he came off the bench. But I think his time's gone. He's gone to AC Milan. He went there on a free, and now they're trying to get rid of him. Funky. Still don't get the Moyes out thing. Agreed he doesn't play the way that is great to watch. But 6th, 7th, Europa semi-final, Europa championship winners. Another year in Europe. His tactics boring, but work. Yeah, I get it. I get that the football is turgid. I know that. Excuse me. And I do actually think we're going to do better in the league. I don't know how well we'll do. I think we'll be in the top half. Are we going to compete for the top 6? I'm not so sure. But certainly I think we won't have anywhere near as bad a season as we did last season. Famous last words. Elbow. Early, I'm biased. He's my mate's son, so I'm interested in other views. He'll come back from a growing up. He needs games. Listen, mate, I take him. I think he's a decent player. I know he's had injuries, but I think he's a very, very decent young player. Peter, apparently lawyers are involved in the right. It's done. By Friday, he'll be an Arsenal player. Let's forget about it and let's move on. John, think Gerd could play in the midfield. Good tackler, creative, progressive passing, can carry the ball. I really think Gerd could step in that role. Potential captain too. I think he's potential captain. I agree with you there. I like Gerd. I think he's a ball-carrying centre-back, but I'm not so sure. In the same way as someone earlier mentioned about Kehrer, I think maybe Kehrer is a little bit more, careful, I guess, with the ball. He would probably be a little bit more of he'll play more like a midfielder, Kehrer, than I think Gerd would. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I like Gerd. He's a ball carrying player, but I think Kehrer would do better in that role. Ray, where's the Europa Conference money gone? Mate, we didn't earn that much, really. I don't know what it was in total. You know, the group stages and the cup and the final, etc. Is it 20 million, 25 million? I think we've earned from it. This ain't Champions League money, mate. Far from it. It's not a lot, but it's there. It's in the bank. Daniela. Black Country, why not dream? And we have beaten Liverpool and City before. We know, and City, who are known to have a poor start in a campaign, except when they play us, of course. Vinay. Can play a Gerd in midfield. I think he's the best Rice replacement. It's interesting. That's the second shout. I like him. I kind of think I'd kind of prefer to have him in as a centre-back. But yeah, I see that. I still think maybe Kehrer might be a better option. John, interested in 20 players. Russ Budden reckons 107. Well, what does he know? Usual. If I see Declan in Portugal Saturday, I'll buy him the best drink in there. I don't know where in Portugal he is, but he was spotted at a beach. So maybe the sun part of it. Good evening, it's not worth it. How are you? I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Early doors. Elbow, what did Elbow say? Elbow said, and then he replied to early. 100%. I think he could definitely fit in. He'd love us. He's a little bit like Scholes roams about. I like him. I like him. I think he's a good player. Let's, the injury not great, but he'll come back from that, and he's young enough. He totally agrees with you. Always does a job for the Gunners when he comes on for them. I don't think they'd want to let him go though. Would be a shame. I'd like him. I think we could. If we made an offer, I wonder if Arsenal will take it, and I wonder what value they think he's worth as well. Let's scroll down. Black Country, come on, Daniela. Last season league form was poor. Moyes he needs to change his tactics. We all agree it was poor. Let's not deny it. It was turgid. I thought we were going to change it, and we did in the end. In the last half dozen games or so. Mark, good evening to you, mate. Good to see Moyes playing two up front tonight. Could this be the sign that Antonio could be sold? I don't want to say I hope so, but I hope so. Look. Don't get me wrong. I love what Antonio's done for us as a footballer. He's come in. He's played almost every role in the team. I think I said, apart from goalie and left back, he's played virtually every single role, and he's been exceptional. He's been phenomenal for us. Something has changed in Antonio over the last couple of years. I don't know. There's an arrogance, and I don't mind a player having the arrogance. I think that's great. I think sometimes that can bolster their game. But I guess what has got me and maybe a lot of fans is the way he's spoken on these podcasts, etc. I'm not suggesting that we should stop people, we should suppress what people say, but over the January transfer window, he was clearly pushing for a move. I think he was touting himself. And then when he came out with the comments about Scamacca just before the final, almost kind of, look, Scamacca was still recovering from injury, but it's almost like rubbing it in Scamacca's face, like, look, mate, I'm starting and you're not in the final. And I just thought that it's just a little bit too much. And when we hear about, and I've spoken about this again before, when we hear about, there's rumors going on in the, in the changing room, in the dressing room, that there's discourse and people aren't happy, etc. Sometimes, and everyone blames Moyes for that. Everyone goes, oh, that's because David Moyes is this, and this. I just wonder if there's maybe a little bit coming from some of the players, and it just worries me about Antonio. I don't know what's gotten into him, but I think it actually is time for him and us that we parted ways, So I'd wish him well. I think he's done exceptionally well for us, but I think he wants that last move. He was 33 years of age, but he's been paid 100 grand a week or so, but he wants that bigger move. He thinks he's a 120 grand a week player, and if he can get that offer, if we get a 10 million offer and someone offers him that sort of money, fair play, let him go. And it's a shame. I don't want to think that of Antonio, but something has gotten into the player that's kind of left a little bit of a bad taste in the mouth, really. Steidon will bring in Will Still. I don't really know, John. I like Will Still, but it's still a young coach. I don't think he will bring a coach like that. As you rumors, Xavi Alonso. He's good mates with him. He's at Bayer Leverkusen. He's in his last season at Bayer Leverkusen. It will not surprise me one bit if Moyes left at the end of this coming season and you see Xavi Alonso replacing him. GP, a rumor still can start. Moyes says that this is the only fan channel worth watching. West Ham. Do you know what David Moyes said? Apparently he says this is the only fan channel worth watching. And do you know what? He's absolutely right. Come on, Moisey. Flemmer, we will not win Europa League. I'm not saying we will. But Flemmer, everyone said last season, and look, I get what people are saying about Moyes and the awful way that he's played and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to deny that, okay? But everyone said last season, keep Moyes, we'll go down. We didn't. Everyone said last season, keep Moyes, we'll never win anything. We did. So, mate, I don't want to knock people who want Moyes out, because I get it. I absolutely do. I totally agree. The football was turgid last season, but who knows what could happen? We were semi-finalists. We lost to the winners of the Europa League the season before. Who knows what could happen? That's the beauty of football, that you don't know how things are going to pan out. Good evening, Ben. Still, would you like Onana? Onana done well at Everton and think he would be a good fit. I think he is one of the 20 players that we're looking at. I actually think, well, Everton are in financial shit, aren't they? And I think it's very, very possible that we would get an Onana could be the replacement to Declan Rice. Now, look, apparently we didn't get Onana last summer. It's because he wanted assurances of game time. And I think that was probably one of the reasons why we were hearing the stories last summer, that we were trying to move Souček on. And we didn't get any offers. And I think that's why we couldn't guarantee Onana that game time. Now, I know what you're all going to say. Good grief. Onana's much better than Souček and blah, 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 blah. I hear all that. But I think that's why Moyes kind of said to him, I can't guarantee. What manager can guarantee any player game time? I think that's wrong anyway. If a player goes, I want a guarantee of game, what? Even if you're playing shit, mate, mind you, Souček was guaranteed game time. But no, seriously, what manager can guarantee? I think if you play well and you do well, you keep the shirt. And I think Onana, a year, he's done well for Everton, absolutely. And I think he would fit in. I agree with you, Ben. Long answer to a short question. Dan, the link to Harwood Bellis is an interesting one. Definitely the sort of play we should be looking at. Mate, where's that come from? You're going to have to tell me, a bit more about him. I haven't heard that one. Funky T. I see the agent's propaganda is working overtime. I take it with all the pinch of salt until the last week of the transfer window. If I believed it all, we would have sold the whole team. Exactly what I was saying, Funky T. Exactly that. It's like, it's ridiculous that we will get rid of so many. We will have players will leave. We've lost two. We've lost Lanzini and we're about to lose Rice. They're gone. And we will lose maybe another 3 or 4 players. It's very possible we will lose another 3 or 4 players. I'm not including the development players that we've lost, the academy players. Let's just focus on the first team for now. We will lose another couple of players without a shadow of a doubt. And if we do, I think we will be like for like. I think we'll get 1 out, 1 in, as I said earlier on. Usual. Sullivan wants someone big up front. Rumour is he wants to sign Hugh Edwards. I know what you're talking about. Greg, away kit, and apparently it's not true, but I don't know. Greg, away kit is meant to be white with a silver badge, so sounds interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it already. Daniela. Yes, Del, it's called transfer fishing. If you put a rumor out there, they're hoping something bites. And boy, oh boy, do we as a fan base bite. Hammers. I want Moyes to stay and see if he does well and maybe sack him in December if we're doing shit again. I think that's the way it'll probably go. If we're doing badly by Christmas, he'll probably be gone. Raz, would Openda or Balogun or Davids be a good striker replacement if some of the strikers leave? Jonathan Davids, is it? From what French club's he playing for? I can't remember. Decent. Balogun, Arsenal, what are they asking for? Something like 50 mil. Forget about him. Openda, I don't know, mate, to be honest. But Jonathan David, yeah, good shout, maybe. Martin, what are the odds to win the Premier League? Fuck knows. Don't bet on it. John, evening all. How come they're still putting Rice name and number on the new shirts? Well, if people want to buy it, why not? At this moment in time, he's still a West Ham player. I know. GP, Johnson is surplus with Kehrer and Soufal. Yeah, it's a shame because maybe if Johnson kept in form, you could say he would be the cover at right back and Kehrer playing at centre back. Max, is Moyes leaving yet? I'm afraid not, mate. Dan, yeah, absolutely. The price is right. Any player is available. You're absolutely correct. Let's scroll down. Let's try and get to the bottom so I can then go into the final part of the show. Jonathan, is Flynn Downs better than Souček? Yes. Or use him as a mate weight for Lavia from Southampton? Interesting shout, but not Ward-Prowse. No, interesting. Early doors. Rumour is we're going in with a cheeky £20 million bid for Ward-Prowse. He's another one of the 20 on the list. GP, Souček could be a new player without debt. This is my thinking, GP. I know it might sound a little bit crazy, but that's my thinking indeed. Look, we know that there was a change in system to accommodate Declan Rice. Declan Rice wants to be a more box-to-box midfielder, and it worked sometimes, but it didn't work at other times. When Declan Rice played holding midfielder, Souček went forward more and was more effective. They kind of had to share that role, and it kind of like all went a bit skewed. If we get a holding midfielder in, you might well see a very, very different Souček for West Ham United. Maybe. Epic. Souček is getting slower. It should go now when we can still get money for selling him, like I said, and like Dan said as well. If we get a 15 million offer for him, yeah, he'll go. Jerry, Souček needs to up his game if he stays. He had a poor season last campaign. Yeah, I agree. And maybe upping his game might be giving him that bit more freedom that he had before. Anthony, yes, Epic. Time to sell him or value will plummet. Well, he's in his last year of his contract. So either we're going to have to extend it to get some money back if we sell him at another time, or we're going to have to sell him. Aaron, Moyes is shagging Sullivan's new bird. Saw them at it in... Let's scroll down. Max, Agerd is undervalued, fantastic defensive midfielder, and the times I've seen him come forward, his good pace and dribblers. I don't disagree. I'm not against that. I think you guys might be right saying that he could play a defensive midfield role. I just think that means we've got to then go out and get another central defender. I think we already need another central defender anyway, to cover for Ogbonna, to cover for Zuma, and to cover for Agerd, who all have their injury issues. Hammer time. Don't really understand why Antonio wants out. What does he think he's going to get? He thinks he's going to get another. I think he's got 2 years left at West Ham. I think, yes, 2025. I think his contract's till. He's on 100 grand a week. I don't really know, mate, to be honest with you. I don't know what he thinks he's expecting. But it seems to me he wants that one last big payout. Will he get it? I'm not so sure. There might be a club that'll go, you know what? He's worth a bet. Give him a 2-year deal, 120 grand a week. They might do it. Schmeigel. Antonio Ings should leave, in my opinion. Villa totally pulled our pants down with Ings' deal. I get why we got him. It was desperation time, but then he wasn't utilised in the right way. Brian, I really think if Cornet can come good with Barnes and Benrahma, with Paqueta, feeding them, we could definitely be a team to make waves. I'm 100% with you on that. Which is why when I was asked earlier about what striker do you think we should get in, I couldn't think of one off the top of my head. There's been a few mentioned already, but I make you right. I think if Cornet comes good, if Barnes comes in, Benrahma with him, Paqueta, absolutely, yeah, that would be quite a formidable front line without a doubt. I'm going to avoid that. I've read it, but I can't mention it. Martin, I don't want to get sued. Apologies for a stupid question, but why does Rice want the number 41 shirt at Arsenal? Because that's the shirt he was given when he started his career at West Ham. The story goes, he said the story. The kit man gave him the number 41, and it's just stuck with him. So now he wants to keep that. Not very PC number 7. What did I say that wasn't very PC? I do apologise if I've offended anyone. Dan, the whole kit stuff makes me laugh. Who bloody cares? It's hardly going to make the difference to what we do on the pitch, is it? Well, I did say when we last season's kit, that's the kit we got relegated in, or the kit we came up in, got relegated and then came up in Division 1. I don't know. Last season's shirt looked like a drunkard puked on a white shirt. Or the white and orange shirt looked someone spilt their curry down it. Keith, those are not bubbles on the kit. They're zeros to signify the number of cups Rice will win at Arsenal. Like that. Imagine Declan Rice retiring and going, I look back on my career and I'm so glad I won a trophy with West Ham United. In fact, it's the only trophy I won in my career. Imagine that. Dan, if you gave me the keys to the transfer kitty, I'd be taking a serious look at Sangare, Onana, Barnes, Harwood, Bellis, all within our price range and all make us better. Sangare, I know we were interested in him, weren't we? Was it last summer or maybe the summer before? I can't remember. Then he extended his contract. But I agree. Onana, yeah, I had my doubts about him. And actually, at the end of the season, when people were saying, would you bring Onana? I was like, I sod him. He turned us down last time. But I take that back. Barnes, yeah. Harwood, Bellis, you're going to have to tell me a bit more about him. You're 61. What have you been drinking? Rum. Downey 8. Changing shirt numbers means everyone has to buy the new kit now. There's always a pound to be made where Sullivan's concerned. Well, you know what? You're absolutely right. You are right. Anyone that's bought the Paqueta shirt last season with number 11 on it must be kicking themselves now. Good evening to you, Lee. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. James, good evening to you. Last season home kit was terrible. Curtains on the sleeves. Shirt that deserved relegation. I absolutely agree. Julie, I hope you're well. See me. Yes, I will. I will see you Saturday. I hope you're well. Looking forward to seeing you. And Kim was on earlier on. I did tell him to say hello to you, so I'm glad you're on. Huge. Why don't we sell Antonio and Ings to a couple of Saudi teams? £30 million a pair. They will also get their big payday. They've got to come in for them for us to sell them. They may not even come in for him. Vinay, usual suspect. I made it up, but actually he's getting 45,000 a day since his weekly salary is £317,000. What did you say to? Oh, I'll skip that. Max, I honestly never really liked Danny Ings. He's a bit worse for wear. Doesn't really fit into our squad. I got why we bought him, and I thought, you know what, I get it. A proven goal scorer, is going to come in, is going to save our day. Only if you use him the right way. I mean, that's the one thing with Moyes, isn't it? Not being able to use players in the right, or strikers in the right way. Dabs, good evening to you. Kadur should be second behind Bone this season. Great talent. Absolutely great talent. And I'm glad that he got his goal tonight. Who knows? This pre-season, some of these youngsters could make their mark. Billy Bob. I'm old and old school, the West Ham ways to play football, not bore the opposition. I'm with you, mate. I agree. Devonshire was my all-time favourite player, and I love the flair stuff, etc. And I'm with you on that. But also I like winning stuff. And the boring shit has won us stuff. And I'm not saying that that's why we should stick with that sort of style of football, but it has won us our first trophy for over 40 years. Not buying a striker and selling Antonio will be a great strategy to force Moyes' hand, starting Scamacca, Billy Bean, Moneyball film tactics. I think Scamacca is going to have a bigger shout this season than he had last. I think he's going to come good. Fuck me, I hope he does. Good evening, Greeno. I hope you're well, mate. Anthony, buy Alex Scott and give him the freedom of the park and let him play his own game. Yes, but he's 19 and that ain't going to happen under Moyes. And I don't honestly think we'll pay £25 million for him, to be honest with you. I really don't. Look, I think talented youngster, fantastic footballer. I am sure that whoever does get him is going to have a fantastic player on their hands for the future, without a doubt. I like to think that, look, he's on the list of the 20. I don't have that. I've already said maybe 5 or 6 who are on the list of the 20. You guys could see it for yourselves who are on the list. There is interest in him. How far that interest goes, I can't tell you. I can tell you that we didn't have that meeting with him. But how far that interest goes, I don't know. Alan, Kera for defensive midfielder, been saying it for weeks. Yes, mate, absolutely. Other people have said that earlier as well. Schmeigel, with Moyes having 1 year left on his contract, do you think there are plans for bringing in Xabi Alonso? Mentioned that earlier, especially with Steinen, because Xabi Alonso also has 1 year left on his contract. So there's every chance that could possibly happen. Dabs. Moyes' master plan is not to spend money so that teams think we have no money. I don't know if that's going to be a good or bad thing. GP still looks younger than half these lads. Mate, bit of moisturizer. It's the Greek skin. It's a Cypriot. I'm lucky. Greek genes. I'm very lucky. Lee, West Ham massive. Here we go. Can't wait for next season. Look at that. That's what I like. Right. Let's go into the last bit of the show, which is all about players that we are apparently interested in. Now, as I mentioned, there's a list of 20. That's what I was told. Am I being told shit? I don't know. But I was told we've got a list of 20 players that we're looking at or have an interest in. I'll repeat what I said earlier on. Just because there's a list of 20 players doesn't mean we're going to put 20 offers in. Not likely. So we will make inquiries for some. We probably won't make inquiries for others. But apparently there's a list of 20. Now, an interest, like I said, could be no more than that. We may make an inquiry and go, how much do you want for this player? We may put a bid in. So when we heard earlier in the day that apparently we're close to signing Juventus midfielder Denis Zakaria, where is it? Where's the agreement? Unfortunately, at this stage, I've been told we're not close to any agreement at all. Having said that, he is on the list, as is Luis Felipe, which is a new one, a central defender from Real Betis, who is also added to the list. Amadou Onana, that people have mentioned. Whether you like it or not, James Ward-Prowse is also on that list. And as I've mentioned earlier, Harvey Barnes is also on that list. And as I mentioned earlier as well, we've only lost so far 2 players. We've only lost Lanzini and Rice. So that's only 2 players I would imagine that we're going to bring in replacements directly for those 2. And there are, at the moment, the 2 players that look more likely are Onana and Ward-Prowse. Now, I know you don't like it. I kind of get the Ward-Prowse story in a way. Experience, set pieces, etc. He can actually add value. But yes, he's the wrong age for what we want going forward. Now, we also know that we need a cover for centre-back, as I've already mentioned. And looking at, if you as I said earlier, if you hear of any links to a player in the Bundesliga or a German player, immediately start thinking of Steiden and Jonathan Tah. Now, Jonathan Tah, we were linked to a couple of seasons ago, but nothing materialized. Decent player, 27 years of age. He's got 2 years left on his contract. He's valued at around about £15 million. He's a German international. Look, admittedly, he hasn't played for Germany for a year, but he is a player that we're interested in as well. So there is interest. Luis Felipe, Jonathan Tah, a couple of central defenders, Anana, Zakaria, Ward-Prowse, whether you like it or not. Alex Scott is another player. Barnes, that's 7 or 8 players I've mentioned already from this list of 20. I will, over time, try and find out who the others are. We will get players in without a shadow of a doubt, but it will be like for like. I think we're going to, once Rice is gone, I think that's the first player we're going to get in. It wouldn't surprise me if a bid goes in for Onana sooner rather than later. Probably be one of the most expensive. Look, we're going to get £100 million in for Declan Rice. You know, you could probably buy 3 decent players for that money. Onana, 30 odd million. Barnes, 30, 35 million. That's only 65 million. That will leave you another 35 million to get another player in. You know, if it is Ward-Prowse, apparently we're going to put in a £20 million bid. If that's true, that's going to be immediately turned down. But Zakaria, we're looking at getting Zakaria on a loan to buy deal because of his injury record. You know, we don't want to fork that money out straight away. You know, Felipe is apparently worth about 15 to 17 million pounds. Jonathan Tah, about 15 million pounds. You can see, you know, that the players we're buying, if they're all true, you know, and add Alex Scott to that. So let's say, for argument's sake, we go for Onana, 30, 35 million pounds. We go for Barnes, another 30, 35 million. That's 70 million. We go for one central defender, 15 million. That's 85 million. Alex Scott, that takes us over the £100 million mark, 110 million. That's not a bad, you know, not a bad list. You know, I don't think we're going to get Ward-Prowse for 20 million. But if we do get Barnes and if we do get Onana in, I think that'll be it for our midfield. I don't think we'll be looking at other players. And like I said earlier on, if we get Barnes in, that's going to give us options up front. So there's your 60, 65, 70 million pounds spent there. We get one central defender in, that's another player in who's going to provide cover or going to be fighting for a first team place. And that'll be it. If we get more than 4 players in, I'll be very, very surprised. At a push, depending on who we might sell, we might go for more, but it'll be like for like. And we've only lost 2 players at the moment. So as it stands at this present moment in time, we only need to bring in 2 players to replace Declan Rice and Lanzini. You know, so depending on who else might go will be dependent on who we bid for. But that's it. There aren't any players that we're in for, that we've made a bid for. We're not close to signing anyone at this present time. I think we are waiting for the Declan Rice deal to go through. And I know what people are saying, you know, are we that skint that we're waiting for the Declan Rice money? Look, from what I've been told, the board, you know, whether it be for FFP or for any other reason, what the board want to do is you know, they don't want to spend more than they're getting in, you know, so they might go about maybe 5-10 million more, but that'll be about it. So we get 100 million in for Declan Rice, and then that means we only get 2 players in. Replace Lanzini. We've got 100 million to replace Lanzini and to replace Declan Rice. If we sell another player, Johnson, he might go for 7 or 8 million. Then we need to buy a player to replace him. If Benrahma goes, then we need to buy another player. If one of the strikers goes to 8-10 million, then so it will be like for like. You know, so I don't expect massive changes to happen at West Ham. I do not expect us to get a whole avalanche of footballers coming in. 4, maybe 5 at a absolute push. But I wouldn't be surprised if we lose maybe 5 or 6 players to only bring 4 in. We do have a decent squad. We kind of forget that we do have a relatively decent squad. We've had quite a few players last season out injured. You know, Cornet was out injured. You know, he will be. I don't know. I know you don't want to hear it, but you know, if he comes good, he will be like a new signing. Skamaka, hopefully we can keep him fit. You know, he'll be utilized more, etc. We've got a good squad already. Yes, absolutely. Declan Rice leaves a big hole, but I think someone like Onana coming in, if we can get Onana over the line, that will fill that hole to an extent. And then that would help us free up the way we play. Right. Let's go into the chat for the final time and bid you farewell. Vinay, Antonio's been great, but if he leaves, there'll be a huge amount of relief on Rosette. Some kid got injured there once. Anthony, Gio on Hammer's chat is always well presented in his Fred Perry stuff. Often I'm jealous of his Fred Perry collection. Fred Perry's not my style, but yeah, agreed. Anthony, apparently Antonio's going to Turkey. Galatasaray are interested and are in London for talks. This is it. They're not. They haven't turned up. They're not in talks. He's over. Where's he playing in the Gold Cup? I don't know what country they're playing in, but he's not even here to discuss it. Moisaurus. So Antonio, after the Luton game, Rosette is in their stadium. Antonio will score 5 or more goals. Jonathan. It was Steiden that brought Alonso to from nowhere after the manager before failing. So watch this space. Yeah. A lot of people are thinking that is what could happen at West Ham. Steiden could bring in Alonso. Imagine that. God, better do bloody well if he does come in. Early doors. Onana doesn't fancy a move to the London Stadium. Another player that feels is more important. Well, if he doesn't, then we don't get him. But I bet after last season, I bet he's kicking himself for not coming to us. Anthony, he'd be a European winner, wouldn't he, if he did? Anthony, Stella, I'm sure you take a duvet and pillows to matches. What do you mean? I don't understand what you mean by that. Helen, good evening to you. Didn't Moyes guarantee Lingard game time? That's why he came to us. That I don't know. I didn't say he didn't have his favourites, Helen. You are correct there. But that I don't know. Possibly. Scarborough. Dario Osorio looks heavily linked to West Ham. Looks like a promising youngster as an alternative to Barnes. Don't know the name. I'll look it up. Foxes, good evening to you. I haven't mentioned Masuaku for a while. I know. Good, isn't it? Dabs. Spoke to the manager of a West Ham shop and he says he's seen all 3 kits and he believes the 3rd kit is the nicest and he says it's a colour we've never really been linked to. It's kind of like a teal colour is what I understand it to be. Or like a greeny teal colour, yeah. Helen again. Anyone know what's happening to Vlasic? He's gone. Look, his shirt number's been given to everybody apart from him. The number 11 shirt, Paquetá had it last season. The number 11 shirt has now been given to Scamacca. We will sell Vlasic once we agree a fee with Torino. Ashley, seen a photo of Declan in the shirt number 41 on Facebook earlier. When it comes to comment, I always click angry. Don't worry. Let it go. Let it go. You know, doesn't want to play for us. He wants to move on. He thinks he's going to win trophies. Good luck to him. He won't win another trophy at Arsenal. It might win the FA Cup. We can win that with us. Foe. Greeno, Young is still at Villa. They've done some good business so far and will be challenging for European football next season. Under Emery, however, we're still massive. You know, we might be challenging as well. You never know. Cockney, whatever happened to the white shorts? I don't know. Talked about this earlier. It is a shame. I much prefer the white shorts and the white shirt, the white shorts and the white socks. Raz, I feel with Deck pushing forward, it affected how Souček played, and with Souček pushing forward next season could be good. I agree. I think we could see a resurgent Souček if he stays. GP, Masuaku did score a cracker still and had to be tasered by security. I did. I've told you the story. I ran up and down the Bobby Moore lower. Mate, he didn't score a cracker. He hit the ball and he deflected. I mean, how he scored that goal against Chelsea. But I've got to admit, I did celebrate. It was fantastic. Also because it was against Chelsea. So what usual suspect, 50 mil for Maguire is a still for anyone looking for a doorman at a retirement. You know the irony? If Maguire's salary wasn't so high, I'd take him. I actually think, you know, I think Maguire could, like, he can't play the Man United style of football. But I think, you know, if you want a no-nonsense footballer, defender, if he wasn't on such a high salary, why not Maguire? David, I don't think we're going to go for him, though. DM got the players to play for him by promising he would leave at the end of the season. Could be a reason for his coaching staff to jump ship. I don't know if there's any element of truth there. Helen, isn't Barnes going to Newcastle? Depends on what you believe. But no, apparently they haven't made a bid for him. GP, Stell said all Welshmen like myself Shag sheep, totally on PC. You put the words in my mouth. I didn't say that. Probably true, but I didn't say it. Greeno, we all know that the worst kit. We all know that the worst the kit, the worse the season. You know what? I don't mind the kit. Apart from the circles, has been not the bubbles, the circles. I don't mind it. Downey, Benrahma out for me. Sorry, I don't know. I like Benrahma. I think he's proved himself. To be quite honest with you, I think he's been a decent player for us. Anthony, according to ex-employee. Steiden is looking at the Brazilian league. Wouldn't put it past him. We've looked at the Brazilian league before. We've got a couple of players. There was the youngster that we got. Can't remember what team it was, but who was in the squad tonight. I don't know if he got to play. Who's the centre back, stroke left back. Can't remember his name. Let me go to the images and I'll get you his name. Bear with me. But we have looked at the Brazilian league, and the youngster's name. Let me take your comment off there. Is Luzal, number 37. So, yes, it'd be interesting to see how he develops this season. But, yes, wouldn't be surprised. There's some decent young talent, without a shadow of a doubt. Jack, I'd love us to go after Lukaku, surplus to requirements at Chelsea, proven in the Premier League, and more than capable of playing Antonio style. Do you know what? Just like the Maguire comment, why not? You know, who knows? Well, he probably wouldn't want to come to West Ham United, though. Helen, saw a breakdown of how much the club get for the shirt, and it's £4. Got to sell a lot of those shirts. Yeah, apparently, you know, after the marketing and all the production costs, etc., clubs don't get an awful lot of money out of the shirt sales. Funky T, apparently after Rice's medical, he tried a shirt on and decided red and canary yellow doesn't suit, so he's fucked off to Portugal to reconsider. Usual, Newcastle want to lodge Maximum to a Saudi club to fund the bid for Barnes. Oh, fuck me. Are they that broke? Fucking poor. Let's get a whip round for them, poor bastards. Garino, socks look like Zebedee thought he was a psychedelic zebra on speed, but the rest of it ain't too bad. I didn't like the socks, so I agree with you. Huge. If Newcastle could sell Maximum to the Saudis, I'm sure we can sell Antonio and Ings to them. Good shout. Hammers Mikey, good evening to you. Going by Boreham game, looks like I was right. Moyes' little bitch Creswell will be captain next season. I don't know. I don't think he'll get regular game time. I think he'll be a vice captain like he was last season. Alan, still offer commentary and 20 mil for Scott. We know that commentary will do, you know, that's a really interesting shout. I don't know if commentary's worth 5 mil though. But maybe offering him and some money. Do you know what, Alan? That's a pretty good shout. Yeah, I like that. Good evening, Cyber. Just about to leave, mate. I hope you're well. Anyone going to Dagenham? I don't know. Is anyone going to Dagenham? Let Cyber know. Let's scroll down. Try to get to the end of the show. How far are we? We're not far. Dabs. I know we need signings, but we also need to sort out the current mess with tactics. Yeah, that I don't think Steiden was going to have much control over. I'll be honest with you. Not at this moment in time. Not whilst Moyes is manager. But don't disagree with you. Razor, great show as usual. Thank you, mate. You and Gio, Gonzo, Nick, and Clout Booze. Great. Hit the subscribe. Thank you. I should always say at the start of the show, if you're new to the channel, probably all the new ones are probably gone by now. But if you're new to the channel and you're watching, please do hit the like button. Please do hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. I do, as people know who are regulars, I do a live show on a Monday night. Every now and again, do a Friday live show as well. And then in between that, do some pre-recorded shows on various subject matters. Let's scroll down. Howard, unfortunately, not Cyber, lone parent and struggling sculptor. This is my only Hammers outlet. I didn't know you were a sculptor, Howard. Wow, that's fantastic. But lone parent, mate. All the strength, mate. Wish you well. Budgie, mate, where have you been? I hope you're well. Thanks for joining. Schmiegel, I'd rather have Sangara over Onana. I think they're both decent. I get Onana because at least he's had a season in the Premier League and hopefully he can only get better. So, Luis Felipe is outstanding in Football Manager. I used to sign him from Lazio often. There you go. Felipe, good. And he's only about 15 to 17 million pounds. Razor. Alex got Peeps already given the Toy Boy stuff. Good enough for me still. Tim, see if he agrees. Early doors. Still, time for me to call it a thank you, mate. Really appreciate it. Thank you for joining and thank you for getting involved. Really, really appreciate it. Clive, you're back in your other guys. Dabs. Might be an unpopular opinion, but I wish we got Milenkovic when we had the chance over Zuma. Zuma's good, but Milenkovic, I like Milenkovic. I would have liked to have had him. Why not had both? Yeah, I agree. Downey, I think we're going down the Red Bull Salzburg route and not buying players like Barnes for 35 million, but selling them for that. I agree with you. I think that's where we will get to, but I think there's a transition happening. You know, if we do get the likes of Barnes and other players for 30 odd million, it might be one of the last seasons that we do that before we move to that. I totally agree. We're going with the Red Bull approach. I can see that happening. That's the start of it. We started coming in without a doubt. Dan, I do agree. I think we sign 4 and then sign replacements for anyone we sell. Absolutely. Alan, we will sign. Will we sign anyone before Moyes gets back from Australia, as he has the veto on anyone he doesn't want, or do you think he is told Steiden who he wants? I think, in all honesty, I think these are grown-up men. You know, there isn't going to be animosity. You know, Moyes has agreed to having a technical director in. He will know what a technical director does. You know, I think they would have looked at this list and they would probably have agreed on the 20 that are on the list. I think that's where they've got to. I will be very surprised if there's animosity. I think they would have agreed, you know, what sort of player do you want? Where do you want to play? Etc., etc. Right. Let's do our analysis. Bang, 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 bang. Here are the players that we recommend or I recommend. What do you think? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So I think they've cut that list of 20, I think is an agreed list of 20. It's now just a matter of going out and making bids for them if that's as far as we want to go with certain players on that list. Usual. I was madly in love with a girl from Dagenham once. Unfortunately, she gave me the elbow. 4 weeks later, I won a race. I won a really nice few quid on the lottery, and I've never looked back. There you go. Always a happy end to a story. Good evening, Douglas. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Buying for number 7. Too late. He's going to keep his number 20. That's the shirt he wants. Number 7 will be filled by Barnes, maybe. Razor. So, Stel, Moyes, after stopping an earner last time, will cost us 20 million more now. Will it? He was going for 40 odd million last. Didn't Everton buy him for something like 40, 45 million? It's actually going to be cheaper. You know, how much does Moyes cost us selling after? Yeah, I agree with that. We have wasted money without a shadow of a doubt. Dario Osorio, Chilean winger at Universidad, linked to us last week. He could be another Steiden Pearl. Yeah, good shout. I think he was mentioned earlier on. Let's scroll down. Ian. How much was he then? How much did who's not 50 million? One I just mentioned or someone else? That must be another comment from something. Ian, tell me who did I say 50 million? Lots going on to be moving in the next couple of weeks. Nice show, onwards and upwards. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. No, huge. Someone said that earlier on. I don't think that'll happen. Be very interesting if it did. Anthony. Newcastle fans said they only have 85 million to spend plus sales. Hence, they have to be careful. Wanted Barnes for 25 million. Leicester not impressed. That is why it's not a done deal. That is why, you know, we've got an opportunity to get in there for Barnes. Irons, everyone's having a fit about the kit. Doesn't matter. It's not even bad. Who cares? It's not bad. I think last year's was worse. Last season's. Lee, thanks still. As always, enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. Always appreciate your support and for watching and getting involved. Right, let's get to the bottom of this and then we can go. Don't forget to like, link and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. Thank you, Clive. Alan, looking forward to flying from Sydney to Perth. Oh, you're going? You've got to send me some photos and videos of stuff, mate, and I'll put them up on the show. Send it to westhamvoice@gmail.com. And I promise you, if you send me a few photos and a few videos, I promise to put them up during one of my shows. That'll be fantastic. Let's scroll down. Let's go right down to the bottom. Hammers Mikey. Razor, West Ham, same mate. Let's see what Razor said. Razor said, Maguire, bad old and remember arrested in Greece and do you know who I am? When he said, do you know, would love to. And then Hammers Mikey, same mate, Socek as well. Guaranteed one of them get the armband next season. Socek, if he stays, could get the armband. Could do. Irons, you know we're going to have a bad season when you have a bad preseason. We had a bad season last season because the preseason, I know, but there's a lot better players. It was a lot better. Play like that against the better teams. Let's see how this preseason goes. You can't always rest your case on the preseason, but I get you. Hammers Mikey again. I feel sorry for Steiden still coming into the club and straight into the middle of a Solomon Moyes spit roast. He's going to get ruined and will probably be gone quicker than he's arrived. That's it. Thank you all for watching. Really much appreciated. We've done an hour, nearly 2 hours. Try to get as many comments in as I could. I hope I've done you proud. Thank you all for watching. Watch out for some shows I'll do pre-recorded during the week. I will, when I can get the time to do a Friday night live, I will do that. May not be this Friday, but in the coming weeks. Really much appreciated. Really much appreciated for all your comments, all your support, etc., etc., etc. Have a great week, and I will see you all very soon.